2023 was easily one of the best years in gaming in the past decade. While it was fantastic, I'd be remiss if I didn't take a moment to say that while we had some great releases, the industry as a whole needs to figure out its priorities. We've got heads of companies earning millions of dollars while laying off the people who made the games, and this is something we as a community of gamers need to stand up for. I hope we see big strides in this in 2024. With that said, I do want to celebrate the work we did see this year. I'll preface that each game and honorable mention is a personal preference, and I totally respect differing opinions. I also won't be covering every single category. Starting off strong with the best family game of the year, it feels like it was an easy pick for me with Nintendo's Super Mario Wonder. Mario Wonder was one of the freshest new takes in the Mario platforming experience to date. Its highly animated and over-the-top gameplay marks a new direction for Mario and company by delivering a unique platforming experience for veterans and a welcomed facelift for the next generation of players. Honorable mention for the best family game is Recreate Games' Party Animals. Indie games are the backbone of the industry and almost always push the boundaries of innovation and technical stylings. 2023 brought some amazing games, but my indie game of the year had to be THA Ltd's Humanity. Humanity's calming yet deeply unsettling setting and narrative are highly emblematic of the experience overall. Being a game that seeks to constantly challenge the player both in technical execution and in objective, Humanity is constantly subverting expectation at every turn. This gorgeous puzzler had me scratching my head as much as I wanted to stop and scratch our little god dog that defined the experience. Honorable mention for the indie of the year is no other than Sad Owl Studios' Viewfinder. Story-driven action-adventure games had a truly amazing outing this year. While there were so many, only one could dominate. 2023's best action-adventure game was Nintendo's Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. Tears of the Kingdom capitalizes on the system of Breath of the Wild, but elevates those experiences in every way. The new abilities and the freedom Ultra Hand gives players is truly one of the most dynamic experiences I have ever had. The Sky Islands are exciting and invoke that Skyward Sword feeling, while still giving players plenty of reason to play in Hyrule and explore the depths. The story is one of the best the Zelda team has delivered in a while, and for me, towers over the Breath of the Wild experience. Honorable mention here is Insomniac Spider-Man 2. But I've got to say, this was neck and neck for me. Each game just offers so much in what they deliver, but I had to tip it off to Tears of the Kingdom. While never recognized in its own category, the shooter genre is one of the most saturated categories in games. First person or third, these games are consumed in mass, and the shooter of the year for me was Gunfire Games' Remnant 2. It's crazy because I didn't even play this game until December, and what a miss for me. Remnant is one of the most dynamic shooters I've ever played. A looter at heart, Remnant is a wonderful multiplayer and solo experience that gives players a ton of variety in class and gameplay options. The mechanics are tight, the world is outstanding, and the lore and story are woven like a true Souls-like. Absolute banger. Honorable mention has to go to the comeback story of the generation with CD Projekt Red's Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty. 2023 was loaded with amazing RPG experiences, but I'd be lying if I didn't feel one dominated above the rest, making RPG of the year an easy choice with Larian Studios' Baldur's Gate 3. I think the thing that's wild about this for me was I wasn't even going to play Baldur's Gate 3. This RPG genre just has never appealed to me, and I thought I'd be spending all of my time playing Starfield. Baldur's Gate 3 is the epitome of the RPG experience and brings choice to the forefront in every scenario. I've never experienced a game that entitled more agency to the player than Baldur's Gate 3, and I think that's what does this category the most justice. Honorable mention in the RPG category has to go to Sabotage Studios' Sea of Stars. Absolutely delightful experience and was greatly received, releasing in the same window as a bunch of titans. This year had some of the best sound design we've seen in years. So many titles brought their experience to life with dynamic audio and sensational Foley, but sound design of the year has to go to Insomniac Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man 2 had the steep challenge to balance music, Foley, and dialogue while delivering the ambiance of a bustling city in a package that feels natural but wasn't overwhelming. Insomniac managed to perfectly package the roar of a city to the point that when I finished a session with the game, I realized how quiet my suburban home is in comparison. The unique cues and audio for both Miles and Peter were reactive and unique, and zipping through the city looked and sounded phenomenal. The indisputable runner-up in this category is Remedy Entertainment's Alan Wake 2. Whenever you have a good year in games, you have a phenomenal year in gaming soundtracks. I'd say this was the hardest category for me personally. The category is just stacked, but the best of the best soundtrack for me had to be Larian Studios' Baldur's Gate 3. Baldur's Gate 3 has an amazing pendulum of tracks that score this experience. Ranging from the deeply somber to the monumentally epic, Baldur's Gate soundtrack does a masterful job of making sure the moments in between the major story beats are just as lively as those over-the-top moments. It does this so well while making sure to give the main stage to the voice performances and the choices of the player. Honorable mention was a tight race, but I had to give this to Square Enix's Final Fantasy XVI. I said it before and I'll say it until I die, single-player narrative games will always be king. 2023 was a single player's delight and made this selection tough, but best narrative had to be Remedy's Alan Wake 2. Alan Wake 2 brings back the FBC and the wacky world of Alan Wake in one of the wildest, weirdest, and shocking games of the year. The contrast in gameplay and story between Alan and Saga, while driving parallel to one another for the overall narrative, is truly something only Remedy could deliver and was a trip all the way through to the end. Honorable mention for best narrative is Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. Finally, for Game of the Year. For me, Game of the Year has to encompass all elements of each category to even be considered. I also do not consider remakes, even when they are as wonderful as Dead Space and Resident Evil, as true competitors in the category. With that being said, normally Game of the Year is a tough choice, with some minor things giving another game the edge over another, but this year for me was indisputably Baldur's Gate 3. Baldur's Gate 3 feels like a true underdog story. In a year that saw a brand new Mario, Final Fantasy, Alan Wake, a Star Wars game, and a plethora of new and incredible IPs, Baldur's Gate 3 charmed players with dynamic options, hordes of decisions and choices, and an exceptional story, and truly one of the best games of the decade. Larian took their success with Divinity 2 and brought it into the world of Dungeons & Dragons, ushering in a new wave of players to the fold in a way I think Larian themselves couldn't have imagined. With one of the most extensive character creators in gaming, coupled with an ever-changing narrative, crowned by some of the best performances and soundtrack in gaming, Baldur's Gate 3 is one of the best games I have ever played, hands down. And that, my friends, crowns my games of 2023. What a year, and 2024 has a tough act to follow. But I'm optimistic for some good outings, and I can't wait to see what the year brings. Thank you so much for your time and energy. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. Support this video by liking and sharing. Until next year, my friends.